It was really just my subconscious. It was a feeling I had, like people were taught how to think, we're taught how to feel. We don't know how to think for ourselves. We don't know how to feel for ourselves. People say feel free, but they don't really want us to feel free. And I felt a freedom in, first of all, just doing something that everybody tells you not to do. I just love Trump. That's my boy. It's like so many rappers. You'll look at a video of Snoop Dogg loving Trump, but then he get in the office and now they don't love him. Like, Trump is one of rap's favorite people, right?
But we talk about this, that before he was elected president, people in hip hop, it was an in thing to put Donald Trump in your rhyme somewhere.
And by the way, I am in hip hop, but I'm not just in hip hop. I'm a black person in the black community, but I'm not just that. I feel like one thing is people try to minimize me to artists, hip hop, black community. Yeah, I'm always gonna represent that, but I also represent the world. When you hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all?
Look away, look away, look away. Dixieland, 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 Dixieland. Praise God, rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the youth.
Nelson already peeked out his microphone. Fuck, it's so early for this.
Oh my God. My head. Okay. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to Dixieland, the Proletariat. We're going to talk about Southern working class history and current events through a leftist perspective. Make sure to like us on social media at Dixieland, the Proletariat, or Dixie Prol. And if you want to give your wages to a bunch of rednecks, then subscribe to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Dixie Prol. We got a lot of cool stuff to give you, including CDs, stickers, a cookbook, Discord server, Twitch stream, and exclusive After Dark episodes. We also have a Spotify playlist with some great artists you also check out, as well as our merch store. This podcast is brought to you by Contractional Monogamy, Vaping, Living at Home, Modelo, Pushing People in the Swamps, Tommy Cheating Death, Racist Coal Miners, and the Death Grips album, the Death Grips song Beware. Shout out to our new Patreon subscribers, Cody, Cole, Shay, and Chris. A monthly Patreon surplus goes to groups that are run by and or help marginalized people directly. As always, I'm Nelson with...
I'm barely alive. I made it.
I'm sorry.
And I'm here too, I guess. Fuck, this is going to be so weird.
I know, right? And our guest this evening is...
Anthony Edwards, and I am right here joining you guys live from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Woo!
This is me, the Night Fly. No, I'm kidding. That's Donald Fagan. But yes, I'm here.
Hell
Coming
yeah.
straight to you from Indian territory.
Yes. Coming to you straight from Indian territory.
So
live.
Did Oklahoma City fall into... I know the Supreme Court recently basically ruled that like half of Oklahoma is like officially under treaty. But did Oklahoma City fall into that?
Oklahoma City did not fall into that. That's roughly, without getting too in depth and going too far down the rabbit hole of that, it's roughly the eastern and northeastern parts of the state that are included in that area. So we're very close, but if you want to taste of some Indian country freedom, you just got to drive out on I-40 about an hour and a half and you could be there. But that's something that I've heard a lot of white people be paranoid about for a very long time in this state. They've always kind of whispered about it. You know, that part of the state, if they ever wanted to say it's a reservation, they could. Well, they did. And so they're all freaked out, I'm sure. But these are mainly the church type people. So
they really did that land back, didn't they?
They did, and they are very scared still. They still think that we're going to ride through and steal their all of their stuff that we would never want.
You know, when people say like, oh, well, that when land back doesn't actually mean that we're going to take all your shit, it kind of makes me go like, but I want to. Yeah.
It really, the people that are so afraid of that, they're not the ones that have anything you would want. I mean, who wants a washer and dryer that's been out in front of someone's house and was probably used to store meth in? Nobody wants that shit.
Someone
Maybe
said,
Tyler's coming in hot.
Yeah, I'll take that shit.
Hell
I'll
yeah.
take it.
Someone on Twitter said people think that the revolution won't be won't be black folks ransacking the suburbs while Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses plays, but it will be. It was a black creator on Twitter. It was the greatest.
Yeah, it's that's probably what's going to end up happening. I mean, I'm just going to sit back and watch it and just be like, oh, there we go. I knew this would happen.
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah, it's like that song. That's one of those things that's funny. I mean, we're talking about Native American culture being co-opted for the gain of entities or white people or something like that. But you know, that song, I'm not sure of how old my comrades here are, but I'm 38. I'll be 39 in October. And I distinctly remember hearing that song for the first time when I was about 5.5. And all throughout the 90s, that was like the big theme song of every like busted up looking racist motherfucker I ever ran into. And then about 15 years ago, it started to change it to no motherfucker. This is going to be our welcome to the jungle. And you know what? We're going to come piss on your Corvette, and then we're going to burn your house down.
Like,
that's kind of what happened.
What did we be like? Welcome to the jungle. We're going to decolonize.
Yeah.
Pissing on your Corvette.
You got to be wary of anybody wearing like AC/DC shirts or Guns N' Roses shirts. Like you see those people and you just walk away because you know.
Oh yeah, it's like if I see somebody wearing like those shirts, Leonard Skinner and Hank Williams Jr. or Kanye West, I just get the fuck away from them.
Kanye West has been added to the list.
I can't stand that motherfucker. But yeah, I mean, anyways, we can go on.
But he's been freed from the sunken place. He's been freed.
He's been freed.
Just as a quick aside, like, so we haven't recorded in about a month, and in that month I was just on YouTube constantly, and I like autoplayed one day was this 1 hour long defense of Kanye West.
Oh my
and
god.
And how like genius he was, and by the end of it I was almost believing it.
Holy shit.
After an hour,
know how hard it is to make 5 beats a day.
like you know, like when you're watching like late night TV when they still did like the infomercials and they have it perfectly timed where like the first 23 minutes you don't feel like you need this thing, but at the 24th minute you start thinking maybe I do need this thing, and that's what happened with this Kanye West documentary. It's like 59 minutes of me going, no, I don't need to know anything about Kanye West, and then the 60th minute
I swear to
he gets the best samples though. He gets the best samples. I'm sorry.
I swear to the Great Spirit that when the revolution happens, I'm finding every copy of his fucking albums and I'm destroying every one of those shits. Because I'll tell you what, I can make beats too. It's called a drum set. It requires actual talent. But anyways, we can move on.
okay.
Can we keep the shoes though? Because the shoes are dope. Like
fuck those two.
Damn, Tyler.
I got a couple pair of those.
That'll be something that could be worked out.
You should burn those right now.
No. They're so dope, man.
That'll be something that'll be worked out by the decolonized provisional government.
They shine in the sunlight. They make my.
They'll be shining. They'll be shining on top of that pie or two.
Okay. What is our episode about today?
Anthony, what are you going to be talking to us? What are you going to be talking to us about today?
I'm going to be talking about my experiences growing up in Oklahoma as a Native American, and then I'm going to correlate that some with my experiences, just a little bit as a Native American existing in a more traditional space out in the wilds of California. But those are just going to be some quick asides, but I'm mainly going to be discussing how our culture has been basically chopped up, destroyed, so that a bunch of colonizers, white people, organizations can swoop in once a year when it's June during our Red Earth Festival. They say they support us so much during the rest of the year, they don't care, and they donate money to terrible politicians who want to do things like not give us any rights or sovereignty. So there we go.
Hell yeah.
And,
Go for it.
Go for it.
All right. Well, just a little bit about me. I'm not going to talk too much about myself. I'm going to talk more in generalities, but I remember I have several different tribes in my blood. I'm on the rolls of one tribe. We were on the Dawes rolls going back to the original stuff. So we could trace it back. Got the card, all that nice stuff. My family, the native part of my family, was brought here on what would have been the Trail of Tears. And the native part of my family also had their land taken in the land run, which is a very important thing we'll come back to later. And just to set the scene a little bit, for instance, my great grandmother was born in 1903, and I got to know her very, very well before she died. And I heard all the stories from her. We talked quite a bit. Yeah, she was born in 1903, Native American. She was a school teacher, but she wasn't allowed to be a citizen of the country until she was 21 because of the government. And then she grew up in this state, and she raised my great uncle and my grandmother by herself during the Depression and the Dust Bowl while she was teaching school and as a native. And the places they usually lived were off either at Indian school property, or they were also sometimes in the poorer parts of town, or parts of town where they would put the Black and the Native members of the community, if they had any Black people at that time. And today in Oklahoma, still we have towns. There's one up in northern Oklahoma called Pawhuska that was a traditionally Black town. And then we have towns around that are traditionally more Native, and they're big cultural centers of Natives, places like Chickasha, Shawnee, where my tribe that I'm on the roll from is based out of, stuff along those lines. So we have this, as of now, if you look at it from the outside, we have what people would deem to probably be this very vibrant tribal culture. But that's something that the state always puts out there, and they're like, look how well the natives are doing, look how great everything is. Besides the fact that the only reason we have any of that stuff is because we did it ourselves. The state helped us with nothing. But they prop us up as like their live action circus act to get the tourism into the state. They advertise us quite frequently. They push us out there. But then taking you back to last summer when the McGirt decision came out, it was just intense hatred, from our governor, Kevin Stitt. Oklahoma just has a long, nasty history of race issues. I mean, we just had the Tulsa race massacre anniversary here recently when Biden came and everything. But one of the most interesting things that happens here in this state is the reenactment of the land run. And when you're in school, you're expected to reenact the land run. And this is how they normalize the subjugation and the colonization of the Native Americans in this state. That's one of the ways they do it. So what you would have to do, I do not believe they do this as much anymore. I always sat out of it for obvious reasons. They would have all the kids in the school dress up like settlers, and they would go out and claim little tracts of land out on the field behind the school. And never mind the fact that, you've got Black Native kids out there doing this, recreating their own trauma and history while they're at a school state-sponsored event. You're at a school. The state is supporting this. So in Oklahoma, there's this very, as you will find other places, this very skewed portrayal of natives up until the recent past. One of the biggest things about the land run that this blows my mind, this state is all just stolen land. They go in and they erect this abysmal land run monument in downtown Oklahoma City to commemorate this. And right down the road, they have what's supposed to be the Native American Heritage Museum. Now it's going to be the First Nations Center Museum, something along those lines. And that took forever to get done. Like, people had to beg for money to get us remembered. but it's okay to celebrate us when it's taking our land and things like that. And it's okay to use us to bring the tourists to the state by saying, oh, come look at all the stuff they're selling. They've got a casino, all that stuff. But they do not like to talk about the land run. If you talk about the land run with most white people in this state, they give you the reaction that you used to get from people when you talked about the Tulsa Race Massacre, which was one of, oh, it's shock and horror, but it wasn't that bad. So that brings me back to my point. Oklahoma is just all stolen land. It's all based on that. It's all based on this bullshit idea that everything's okay, and it's not. And they still hold up this land run as some kind of beacon, like it's something great. Post land run, post 20s, post 30s, the state of Oklahoma, they kind of decided, even though they were still sending us to Indian schools to have our hair chopped up, things like that, they decided it would be a good idea to start bringing people in for tourism, as they did in other places, because you'll see postcards and photos, those cute little things. I'm sure Hayaza is familiar with this, of like, oh, squaw woman holds baby by the river in basket.
I collect some of those postcards. There's something in me when I go to these places where they have those boxes of like 120-year-old postcards, and I find that these pictures, I want to like rescue them. Mm-hmm. So I actually have a huge collection of about like 120-year-old postcards that are all like, they say things like the squaw slur and a brave looks out over a vista and shit like that. It's kind of crazy when you see that these days.
Yeah, you're right, and they make it ultra dramatic. I mean, am I right in saying they make it ultra dramatic to get attention?
Oh yeah, it's always in like really traditional clothes, which by the turn of the century, most indigenous people who had connection to the colonized world wore, if not Western clothes, at least mixed clothes. But it's always, like a shirtless man in very traditional clothes, like on a bluff, and his skin has been darkened post-production. And, he's got his braids and his feathers. By 1900, people still dressed like that, but many did not. And so they go for that look for a reason.
Oh, well, definitely. And I can give you a definite example of that. There's a place out in the California desert where there are some actual authentic pictographs, but Walt Disney Company in the 40s filmed at this location and decided they weren't cool enough, so they went in and traced over all of them and ruined them. And they're still there. And if you look up, this is no big secret, if you look up the Barker Dam pictographs in Joshua Tree National Park, they came in because they decided it wasn't Indian enough and just wrote over it and stuff. And the paint they used has made it impossible to save the original pictographs. And so you've got this whitewashing of history, like what we were just speaking about, and that's a good example of it. Here it happens, I feel it's on a more subtle level, where it's just more along the lines of, you see Native American imagery. You see, I know the popular thing to talk about would be like the headdresses on the girls at Coachella or wherever those types of people like to go to do stupid shit. But here you'll see things like, you'll have the United States flag, and I'm not talking about some other stuff. Like, I've got a United States flag that has Crazy Horse on it, and I love it because it's great. Because it took that symbol and just rips it apart. But you've got the United States flag, and they'll put a dream catcher superimposed on it, or they'll put dream catchers inside the little stars, or they'll put dream catchers in place of the stars. And what's really frightening to me is when I see other natives do this, because they bought into this idea that their identity as a native is tied into this entity that has killed them and caused trauma and all kinds of terrible stuff to them for generations. But they see it as okay because this is what the state tells us we need to do. And, it's okay because a lot of them have been especially here, have been sucked into the Christian religion very heavily. And so that's a way that this control continues in places like Oklahoma. It'll continue in places like the Dakota, not so much in the Dakotas, because the Dakotas, it doesn't have as much of a grasp there. But when you're here in the Bible Belt and you've got native imagery coupled with what I believe is a fascist symbol, the United States flag, you're in some very scary territory, and they're raising these native kids around this, and this is what they see all the time. So they think it's normal, they think it's cool.
I saw a really cursed dream catcher once that had like a Confederate flag symbol in it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I saw that one too. It's like, how can you get more? It's just like, what the fuck?
Look, it's heritage, not hate. Okay.
I toyed with the idea of starting an art project of taking a picture of every out of context dream catcher I saw for a year and like compiling it to show like what the dream catcher has been turned into by colonizer culture. But I realized very quickly that I would have been spending all of my time taking pictures of these terrible dream catchers. Now, personally, the worst one that I've seen was one that had a rubber cutout of a minion dressed as Black Widow from the Avengers in the middle of it.
Are you serious?
Yes, completely serious.
That is so fucking wild.
Oh my God.
Who would put a minion on a dream catcher?
Now, the only thing that I could assume, because I went and looked at like the rest of the shop, and that it was like white people who thought dream catchers were cute rather than like any kind of, even when white people see dream catchers as mystical, they wouldn't put a minion in it. But if they think it's cute, they'll put a fucking minion dressed as Black Widow.
They don't care. They don't care. And see that this is actually covering one of the other points I had about like the fake artwork and stuff. That's perfect right there. I mean, it's like you look and it's like, oh, well, who made this? It's like, oh, well, Billy Ray made that back in the shack behind his house, and he's selling it at the trading post saying that it was made by a full-blood Native American, but it can't be because, well, why is Hank Williams Jr. in a Native American keychain? You know, that kind of thing.
Or like native stuff with like fucking John Wayne on it.
Oh God, yes, I have seen that. I saw a squash blossom drawing once with like John Wayne over it, and I said, what the hell am I looking at?
Oh my
right
God.
now?
It's like
what
when
the hell is this?
It's like when people say they enjoy Olive Garden. I totally understand.
Oh, fuck off, Nelson. God,
Hey, they got
damn.
good bread.
Gotta come in here with
breadsticks.
your Italian feelings every time.
Wait. People eat at Olive Garden? Wait a minute.
Yes, they do.
Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
they do. Yes, they do. If
I think it's just the fact that Montgomery's Olive Garden is so shitty. I've never in my life returned anything until I went to Olive Garden. I returned I had dirty plates. I had to walk out. I was like, fuck this.
Is this in Alabama?
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay.
Sorry, ma'am. In my roll of silverware, there's a crack pipe.
Look, Olive Garden is one bit of Italian culture I am willing to appropriate because we were definitely that poor ass family who thought Olive Garden was fancy for birthdays.
Oh. I wanted to segue this into the joke you told earlier.
All right, since Nelson, I'm very sorry, Anthony, but Nelson's not going to drop it until I tell him what happened.
Oh my God.
No, you're fine.
So I sent Nelson a picture that I came across of a Venetian canal boat with Venetians on it, like pulling the canal boat, and it had several Sioux men in full regalia and headdresses, and Buffalo Bill Cody, the guy that did the Wild West show, and it was taken in 1890. And I sent it to Nelson and told him that this is a picture of my family sending his family back to Italy.
I saw that. I saw that.
And then I said, it's actually a picture of a delegation of indigenous people sent to Italy to tell them that they did not invent tomatoes. And then the third iteration of this is the fact that these indigenous men heard that they make buffalo mozzarella in Italy, and the last person who tried to milk a buffalo did not come back alive. So we were concerned for their safety.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens if you try to milk a buffalo. You will die.
Yeah. Don't pet the fluffy cows.
You know, that is so. I can actually bring that up as another point. Like I have seen so much stupid behavior around buffalo in this state, down at Lawton in the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge. I have seen so many Caucasian individuals who think they could get close to one. And one guy got about 10 feet away from one and it made a noise and he ran off screaming like a child. And he was one of them that had like the big tribal tattoo, you know, like the big, like Joe Rogan, I'm a big fucking man shit on his arm. And dude went running off like he was about ready to have a coronary because the buffalo scared him. It's like, but why did you get close to the buffalo? You don't get close to the buffalo. It's like when people get bitten by rattlesnakes in Death Valley and I read the reports and it's like, oh, I reached my hand into a dark hole. I didn't know what it was. Well, you idiot. What do you think is going to happen?
Oh my God.
That's like all week. I came into some fucking bison meat and I was sitting there eating it at work and I'd cook me a steak and I'm just like, man, tastes so fucking good. But God damn it, we did some fucked up shit with this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Tyler comes into the group chat and asks if it's cultural appropriation if he eats bison meat. And I had to ask him, are you trolling me?
Yeah, I've had it multiple times. Yeah, it's really
Bison
good. I mean,
is delicious.
Yeah.
Bison is great, and bison's great, and I've never had it, but I know several people in several fellow natives in the desert who have had bighorn sheep when they've hunted it. And I know one lady out there who actually has ate some of her grandfather's bighorn sheep jerky when she was 5, and she's 96 now. So 91 years ago, she ate her dad's 10-year-old bighorn sheep jerky. And so we really need to get, I think we kind of maybe need to get more bison and I don't know, wild game back into our diets here in Indian country because the fried bread sure ain't working out. Yeah. Yeah,
like from a nutritional standpoint, like it is like it has some of the highest protein counts, some of the lowest fat counts. Like it is literally some of the healthiest shit you could fucking eat.
All right, quick plug. If anybody's out there who can get a hold of Tonka Bars, Tanka, Tonka Bars, it's an indigenous-owned business. They make pemmican, which is a traditional food that it's berry and buffalo meat made into. It's not really a jerky, but it is a dried bar, and you use it as an energy bar. That shit is delicious. Support them doing that because they also have their own herd out there. But also, like, I can personally attest that buffalo is delicious, rattlesnake is delicious, alligator is delicious. Start eating the animals that are indigenous to where you live because they are made for that environment, and it's going to cause less of an issue further on down the line with farming and shit like that. All right, my rant is over.
Yes, and eat the plants there too. And just remember that we should not be eating fried bread, people. Keep it away. Trash it. Unless it's a special occasion, we don't need to be doing that white man's food.
The last piece I had was 2.5 years ago at like 2 a.m. in my sister's kitchen. She made wajapi and fry bread. And that was like delicious. It's like this late night treat of like wajapi and fry bread. And it's like, oh, this is amazing. But now you've made me hungry because I'm used to the those kinds of, what did somebody call it? Concentration camp foods. That's basically what fry bread is. It's a concentration camp food.
Reservation food. Yeah.
What is fry bread?
Do you want to take that, Anthony, or shall I?
Well, so, okay, we could both kind of take it. I'll give like a vague overview because I know the history, but I'll start off with what fry bread is actually in moderation. It's not bad for you. It's a good treat. You can have it as a treat occasionally. The issue is it's something that became a part of Native American diet and has become kind of detrimental to our health as a whole. And it's kind of symbolic as that. because it's basically, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just kind of made with things that would have been left over for us, like the end of the harvest season, the day or whatever we've been given, if I'm correct.
So it's you're not far off. It's the provisions that were quote unquote given to natives that were in like the fort system or on the reservations. They were entitled to some food given to them by the government, and that includes flour and sugar, and I think like cooking lard or oil of some kind. So it's basically a shaggy dough that you turn into kind of a donut size, and you put a small hole in it, and you throw it, and you deep fry it. You deep fry it so it goes crispy on the outside. It's very soft on the inside, and there's like millions of toppings that people do, but wajapi is kind of like a better one because it's a berry mix. It's like a berry, like in fancy terms, it's a coulis. It's like a liquidy berry mix that you put on it. But there's also like Indian tacos where it's basically tacos but on fry bread rather than in a taco shell or something like that. But it's when I say concentration camp food, that's exactly what it is, because if you were on the res system or if you're in the fort system, then it's food that was given to you by your captors. And you know, like stuff like that has happened with other people that have been in like concentration camp situations. That just happens to be our cultural food that has come out of this system.
Pretty much like the same thing with like anything anybody would consider like either Southern food or soul food now. It came from like just a terrible fucking situation and is extremely appropriated.
What your captors would have given you. So like a lot of like backwoods kind of Southern delicacies, or if you have like pig's feet or chicken feet or stuff like that, that's what you'd be given by your captors. So it becomes kind of this cultural legacy that goes on after time. So anyway, please go ahead.
And this is, and that's a popular thing here. You like Indian tacos and stuff like that. That's, no issue with that, obviously. It's just that when everything's boiled down to that one item where it's like, oh, yeah, that's all you guys eat. You just eat that. No, we have lots of other things. There's the Three Sisters, and we've hunted game, we've trapped game, large game, small game, plants, things like that, of course. But if you look at what this state puts out about us, we are, number one, we have casinos. That's it. We got casinos, and we have concerts that you are going to like to go to, because we're going to get Leonard Skinner, and you're going to come in here and you're going to give us all your money, which, I mean, okay, cool. But they put that out there, and then they kind of boil us down to the lowest common denominator. They think we're stupid. And then every time there's a cultural event or something like that, it always goes back to that same thing of, oh, how quaint. They don't live in teepees anymore. They have, houses, and they have all this other stuff. And so it's almost like this infantilization of Native Americans in portrayals in the media that we've seen, around the world, globally, and on a more local level here. A lot of the people in this state probably still do believe this, and I've been asked this from a young age. Don't you just get free money for everything? No, sorry, we don't get free money for everything. They all think we get free money here. And they all think that, we can do a rain dance and all that kind of stuff for them. Sorry, we don't do that, because that's also, not just the media, but that's the image the state puts out there for us. We're this mystical, really scary group of people. But if you come to our hotels, we'll be nice to you, but don't give us any rights. And then once again, like I was saying, you go back to the land run, and that's the entire cloud we have over everything here in this state. What has happened, though, good things, like when the McGirt thing happened last year, people really had to sit up and start taking notice of us, because they knew we had power. And there's something that my great uncle and my mom always say, and I'm sure Kayaza, you'll agree with this, is that we weren't anyone's danger when they could kill us easily. And we especially weren't anyone's danger when we didn't have the white man's quote unquote education. But now we've all gotten that, and we're scary to them now. So they have to infantilize us in our portrayals once again. Because a lot of the direct that came out last year with the Supreme Court McGirt decision from our governor, and just a lot of people have stated, oh, can they manage themselves? Can they handle themselves? Yeah, we were handling ourselves just fine for thousands of years until you showed up. And we're some of the number one job creators of this state. We're one of the big reasons that everyone that wanted to get vaccinated got vaccinated. So perhaps it's about time that they start showing us a little more appreciation. And that's been going on as well. There's been a shift lately in a lot of the materials that the tribes put out themselves, I've noticed, especially among the Chickasaw tribes and a few of the others, where it used to be kind of like this bowing thing they would do, and it made me sick. It was like, oh yeah, the state of Oklahoma let us do this. We work with the state of Oklahoma. I'm like, okay, these are people that would want to kill you. And for years, and I'm just going to say it, my own tribe, I will tell you this, that our tribe has had one of the most corrupt, crooked, perfect for exploitation chairman ever for about the past 35 years. And everyone calls him the white man's chairman because that's what he is. He's dumped toxic waste into a river before. He hangs out with all these right-wing politicians, but he's about ready to lose. And so what's happened is, what's really starting to solve these issues, I believe, the younger people, and when I say younger, I'm including older people too, but when I say younger, I mean people about under the age of 50 who have had enough of this. Because this might sound very bad, but this is just my personal feeling. A lot of these older Native Americans have been so beaten down and they are so manipulated by the religion and the power that these people have. They look up to it and they let them control them. And some of these chairmen do that. And these chairmen have wanted to also kind of keep us helpless. And that plays right into the narrative that places like Oklahoma put out. What's happening now is the younger people have said, we've had enough. We're fine on our own. We don't need to kiss up to our governor or all these idiot politicians who supported Trump, who wanted to kill us anyways. Why are we helping these conservative politicians who portray us as idiots? For instance, one of our highest profile Native Americans in politics in Oklahoma is a guy named Mark Wayne Mullen. And you may remember him from the Capitol insurrection.
He was at the Capitol. He was scared shitless there. I remember him.
He was about to shit his pants. And this is the same man. This is the same man who denied COVID, said that, everything's okay with Donald Trump. And that photo of him with his dumbass, fragile masculinity beard, sitting there, scared half to death on the floor of Congress, was just hilarious to me, because he is one of those people who claims he's a Native American on paper only. Our governor is an imposter. He's not really even Native. If you trace it back, it's a scam. So that's another part of the issue with the way we're portrayed to this state. A lot of the time, the people you're seeing that are Native, they may be Native on paper. They are not Native at all. And I'm not one of those people that goes by blood degrees or anything like that. But if you're cozying up to people like Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm sorry, fuck you. You aren't a Native. You want to kill me. That's how I look at it. Now, that cross between right-wing politics and the natives of this state, that also fell apart last summer. When the McGirt decision came out, a lot of these tribes finally got wise and stopped donating to people like Kevin Stitt and these other idiots in our state and stopped supporting them. And maybe that's what it was going to take. And I do think that is what might actually break us out of this false narrative of, everything's cool. Everything's always been cool with the Indians. You're treated well. I mean, we're still treated like crap here. We're treated like crap everywhere. We just don't have an organization named after us like BLM. I mean, we've got AIM, And I don't even know if we want a group like BLM with all the mess they've gotten themselves into. But for a Native American in a state like this, where everything's supposed to be so heavily focused on you, it becomes readily apparent that you're only used when you're an opportunity to the state to bring money in from tourism or anything like that. And that is what I can say about the state of Oklahoma and the treatment of natives here. I'm happy to answer any kind of questions that anybody has or clarify some things. I've got about another 20 minutes, so I'm good.
So just for anybody who doesn't know about the McGirt decision, do you mind explaining what that actually was and what it meant?
Yes, to break the McGirt decision down to the most basic essence, it would be along the lines of tribes have the authority before the state does to prosecute and adjudicate cases on their reservation grounds. I may not be explaining this in the best way. I use a lot of legalese because I've been involved in that world before. So excuse me if this is all jargony. But basically what it did was it took prosecuting power, law enforcement power away from the state, and it placed it with the tribes and tribal courts. And so we're having a lot of prosecutions going on with that. I believe there's over 1,000 that have been filed now. But Kayasa, if you want to fill in any blanks there, you can.
Okay, so from my understanding, what the issue was is that there was, I think, tribal citizens who committed a crime. It was on what was territory land, so what has been ruled as Indian land in Oklahoma, and they were tried by the state, which is not legal through the treaty. Through the treaty, it means that they can prosecute, so that it's Indian courts prosecuting on their own land, and because that was found in, so the people that committed the crimes, or the people who were charged with these crimes, were found guilty, and part of their appeals process was to say this isn't right because we were tried by the state, we weren't tried federally or by the tribes on tribal land. So that segued into the Supreme Court case saying, like, basically upholding these treaties. And by upholding these treaties, that means that all of that land is still treaty land, is still Indian land. So it's kind of a sideways outcome from what the original case was, but that means that it's going to prove an interesting kind of precedent for other tribal lands and kind of land grab situations and things like that. That's what made it so huge. That's why it made so many headlines, is because it's gonna prove an interesting precedent going forward, kind of outside of the actual incident itself with these people who were charged with these crimes. But yeah, it's just something that, like, it is big news, especially for Indian country and in Oklahoma, but a lot of people might not understand, like, the minutia of it. So just wanted to clarify that. Anybody else?
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Good job.
What when you say the land rush or the land thing in Oklahoma, what is that for people who don't know?
Okay, happened? So the land run was where the United States had created Indian territory. They moved us all here terribly. A bunch of us died on the way. Trail of Tears, you could look all of that up when they relocated people. There were multiple relocations for some tribes. So this was Indian territory, and this was promised to the natives as, you know, this is going to be your home forever. You get to stay here. It's yours forever. But then they opened it up and they let the white people come in and just take all of our land and stake claim. So everything you see in Oklahoma, especially in central Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, if you're in Oklahoma City, you are on stolen land. And yeah, that's basically it, because this was all Indian land. They were forced off. White people came in, took it over. That was
Yeah, there's actually a point when you were talking about that I almost felt like shocked that they're still doing these land grab land rush like things. But then I was realizing, like, from my own childhood, you're only a few years older than me. So in my own childhood, which would have been around the same time as yours, we still had something called colonial days when I was in elementary school. And when you were in the 4th grade, it was a big deal. You had to dress up like a colonial person. You got given a person that you had to research, and then you had to get up on stage and recite one fact that you learned. So like every class had a Pocahontas, and every class had a John Smith, and every class had a John Wolfe, and everything. So like 5 little Pocahontases would be on stage, and everybody had to say one fact that they learned about Pocahontas. And I remember being like, I heard about colonial days, and I remember like basically threatening my teacher that if she gave Pocahontas to anyone else, there was going to be issues. And this is when I was like 9 years old. I was already threatening teachers about this at 9 years old. But yeah,
I was too.
You see, it's not just me.
No, I was too. Because here's what happened. Just to give you a little backstory on it. I in order to not participate in the land run, my mom actually had to send a note with me. I couldn't just sit it out. She actually had to send a note with me. And Oklahoma City Public Schools stopped all land run activities in 2014. That's how long it took them to stop that nonsense.
Damn,
that's how long it took them to stop that nonsense.
Wow.
Yeah, but I will tell you this, the schools that are primarily in the more urban areas, aka the black areas, the ones they wanted to shut down real quick, because you got to send all the good teachers to the white schools. That's why they shut my mom's school down. Anyways, the black schools never did it. But you go up to, let's say, a rich school, and they're going to have some kid out there dressed up as Pocahontas, to commemorate the land run when it has nothing to do with it. But the pioneer days or the colonizer day, what was that called again?
Colonial days. That's what I
Colonial
did in my
days.
school.
Colonial days, that is atrocious. And whoever came up with that idea needs to be forced to listen to Kanye West for like 6 hours on repeat.
Oh my God.
Whoa, hey.
Everything after his mom passed away just went downhill.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, before that too, really. But it's just a very odd thing. And I know now it's moved more from like a old West reenaction thing to like a frontiersman type thing here in the state, where it's it gives these dudes a chance to go out and reenact what it's like living on the frontier, but they can still, I don't know, like look at pictures of AOC on their phones and like fantasize about her while they hate her or whatever these people do.
Tommy, what'd you say?
Huh?
What, you said something? I couldn't.
I was just quoting Kanye lyrics.
Great.
Life of Pablo,
Weird strain of Kanye West in this episode.
If we say his name too much, he'll show up on the Zoom.
I'm standing with you in solidarity, Tommy.
Death row, keep it real, motherfucker. That's
He's
right.
gonna just show up on the Zoom call. This is Kanye West. I heard y'all were talking shit.
If we're gonna summon anybody, it needs to be someone that had talent, like Frank Zappa.
God.
So we could get. I'm perfectly fine with summoning Frank Zappa for this podcast, but Kanye West shows up, I'm getting the fuck out of here. But to go back to Kyle's point about the McGirt decision, that was a pretty big earth-shaking thing in the grand scheme of tribal politics and indigenous rights, especially in this country. That was completely unexpected. And I believe that happened on the same day that the Supreme Court told Trump that he couldn't keep his tax records a secret too. So that was kind of funny. But yes, there were a lot of broken hearts in Oklahoma that day last summer. And it was so sad to see. I didn't laugh at all at any people. I'm kidding. I laughed at all of them.
Oh my God, this Indian territory is actually Indian territory.
Yes, and what's funny is I don't have much time left here, but I'll just leave with a quick anecdote. If you go down to my tribe's headquarters, we've got a museum, and up on the wall, they've got about a quarter of all the broken treaties printed out, and it goes for 50 feet down the hallway. And that's just a quarter of them. So, if they were ever to honor everything that was in those treaties, that little McGirt freak out these little kids here had last summer, I'm pretty sure they'd all spontaneously combust, and I don't know, probably never listen to Florida Georgia Line again or whatever the hell it is.
We're starting with Manhattan and we're taking it back from there.
Yeah, we are. Yes. You know what? Because you know what? They screwed that place up too. And
it was just a nice little fishing island before they all showed up.
Yeah, and we don't need that. And you know what? Screw all that stuff. And Las Vegas, you know what? We're gonna get rid of Hoover Dam. The Colorado River can come back. And the only thing we'll keep in Vegas is the airport, so people can fly in to go to Death Valley real quick. That's it.
What are your thoughts and opinions on the play Oklahoma?
I actually like that musical quite a bit. When I was in high school, I was at Stagecraft, and I did all the lighting cues my senior year for Oklahoma, and I won an award for it. And that was the time, I think. Oklahoma is a pretty good musical. Speaking of Zappa, he actually was a big fan of the music from the musical. And every time he would play in Oklahoma, he would start quoting Surrey with the Fringe on top in his guitar solos, and a few other things. And so that's why I kind of linked to Oklahoma. I don't mind it too much. I do think it would be cool to rewrite it to being modern, because I have no issue with the original. I think it's kind of endearing, but I think we should rewrite it to make it truthful. And then we're going to get a bunch of actors and actresses to do it. And I actually worked this idea up with an old student worker of mine who said that they should all get on stage and drop acid right before going on.
God.
That's what Tommy does before every podcast.
Man, it's the only way to live.
Yeah. Well, I have to run out of here right now because I have another group meeting thing I have to attend. And I just wanted to say it was really nice being on here, and thanks for letting me ramble and rant. And I promise next time I'm on, I'll be a little more organized, but there's so much.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was great meeting you guys.
Yes.
Before you log off real quick, let me just do the outro and then we'll be good. I just want to make sure that everything gets saved together. At Dixieland, the proletariat will believe the South will rise again, but this time for the right reasons. Those being worker-owned means of production, decolonization, and self-determination for all oppressed peoples. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to us on social media at Dixie Prole. We're coming to you from the birthplace of the civil rights movement, Montgomery, Alabama, as well as the United Kingdom. We'd also like to recognize we're recording on occupied land that rightfully belongs to the Muskogee Nation. Anthony, thank you again for coming on. I learned a lot. I didn't know about the Oklahoma land run. So I did learn something from this episode. So I appreciate it. I'm sure everyone else appreciates it. So thanks again for coming on.
You're welcome. Hey, if you ever want to have me on to talk about destruction of petroglyphs in the Southwest, I'll be on for that too.
Hell yeah. Tyler, you want to send us off?
Well, good Lord willing and the creek don't rise. We'll see y'all next time.